Welcome to the second installment of Stew and the Gasholes. I'm number two Gashole, Chad Kuba.
I feel like you should be number one, Gassel, because you start.
Yeah, but no, sorry.
Stuart, how's it going, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here. Filming, or is this filming? What do we call this? Recording?
Call it whatever you want.
I mean, unless you have a whole camera crew in front of you that we're not
He does
aware
not.
of.
I don't even
Is
have
that
one of
your-
those fancy circle lights.
Yeah.
You know, y'all
We
might
gotta
have
get
one of
you one.
those.
I do not. I have an old lamp and a really crappy webcam. So, Stu,
Can
is
use
that
my iPhone.
is
maybe.
is that still your gym clothes behind you?
It is. It is. Hey, I think we're going to talk about some environmental stuff, and I took my bike in today. So
Doing
look
your
at
part.
me saving the earth one bike ride at a time.
one pedal at a time.
I thought about getting a bike. Then I
What
didn't.
would you use a bike for?
That's why I didn't get one.
You would
Look-
go ride down the block, ride it back. You'd be like, I'm never doing that
No,
again.
I like riding bikes. Honestly, you know, my fear is the bike riding. I think is great, and I would ride a bike a lot. But I get really nervous like in around traffic and cars. Like I freak out about somebody like hitting me because with a bicycle you're supposed to ride with traffic, right? I don't like
Yep.
that. I want to see what's coming at me. I don't want to. But anyways,
I
Stuart,
mean, I'll be honest.
anymore.
Like, most of my bike ride home is on a protected bike trail, so that is the only reason I do it. I'm not riding with these crazies.
Not
But I'll,
there.
cut out on 95, like
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I'll say this though, like, as I'm on the bike trail, I ride by all the suckers that are stuck in traffic, right? So I'm like, see ya,
fair.
you know. And so yeah. I mean, it takes me door to door 20 minutes, so I
how
can't
far is
complain. About 3 miles one way, so 6 mile bike ride every time I
Oh, that's not
take
bad
it to
at all.
work. It's not bad. Yeah,
not at all. I still
getting a
wouldn't
little
do it.
exercise.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about it when we start this show. Since it's Stu and the Gasol, shouldn't Stu start and then we should talk? Like he should be the
Can
I
we-
can't
Joe
do that
Rogan podcast.
welcome
He doesn't
thing,
like going second.
but I can't do that welcome thing, Chad. You know,
Yes, you can. You're episode 2.
You should try it now.
Before
You
even
should try it
try.
right now. Give it a shot.
gotta get my what's the dude? The Michael Buffer is the guy that
Yeah,
does
yeah.
like
You need
the.
that hold on mic.
I
I'll
might
buy
be able
you
to
one.
edit
if
it
you
and
use
put
it.
it
I
on my
swear to
account.
God, I'll go on Amazon right now. So Stu, let's talk about the happenings in DC. Anything going on down that way that you want to tell people about?
Not that I really want to tell people about. As y'all could imagine, there was news that came out. I guess we're filming this was this June the 10th, and so we're about a few days since former President Trump got convicted of charges in New York. So that's pretty much consumed all the airwaves down here. And frankly, that's good to a certain degree, at least for us in the energy space. They can be distracted a little bit from doing
do
some
something else.
crazy stuff. Yeah. But it was interesting though. I was able to participate in a Politico, you know, the news magazine, whatever they do these days. They had an energy summit last Wednesday.
Cool.
And so it's cool. I mean, it's kind of the major folks in the energy space from a policymaker standpoint, kind of all interviewed and kind of cycled through both congressional folks, legislative folks, as well as regulatory folks, administration folks. And so, you got some of the what you expected in terms of, wind and solar is all we need to pursue. But then you also got some interesting kind of comments, I would say, from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission chair, Willie Phillips, kind of talking about the reliability aspects of the natural gas system. And even the energy secretary, I mean, she didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but there was a couple of kind of things you raised your eyebrows about. It was like, oh, she said that. Just talking about the value of natural gas. And I think, Joe, you and we were all chatting earlier. You were talking about some LNG stuff. I mean, I think that's some of the stuff. It's hard for her to deny the value of LNG to our allies around the world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was a cool event and kind of, always interesting to hear what the policymakers are thinking.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I always wonder about DC in this way, and I'm sure that you see it too, is that I think the first 3 years of a depending on who's in office, it's like 100% like it's like we're going this way 100%, and then when you start to get around election time, people start to like kind of back off in their positions a little bit. They're like, hey,
They have to.
maybe we need to rethink this, or maybe we need to look at this a little differently. So I don't know if that's some of what you're seeing.
Oh, absolutely. No, it definitely
I
is.
find that really interesting. It's like, no, and then it's like, maybe.
And then somebody's like, who decided to cut off all the gas at the federal buildings? And
Yeah.
you're like, it was you.
Yeah. Oh, we'll change in that policy. No, but back to the LNG thing. Yeah, I was reading an article this morning. And I'm not real good at the reading part, so I might have gotten some of this right and some of it wrong. But Texas and Louisiana ports, they're saying our business is absolutely just booming with the LNG side. The United States is poised to become the largest LNG exporter in the world. At 15 billion cubic meters annually. So, I mean, when you start to think about that, like, you hear all of this conversation around, like, we need to be more, less reliant on fossil fuels. And we need to, and I think the interesting part about that is, while I'm going to put this delicately, while
Sure you are.
we're being asked, I always wonder about this. While we're being asked to back off on our fossil fuels, like, we still are, like, really dependent on the profitability of fossil fuels, right? Like, the amount of money that can actually be made by exporting or selling energy, basically. And I think that that's always a hard thing for people to get away from, because it's valuable. And there's a lot of people that sit in, I think, political offices or, lobbying positions that really impact that, because of, it's a business, right? At the end of the day, there's still a lot of money to be made. I do find it interesting that, and I'd like to talk to you guys about this, is that, there's a big push in some countries for, reducing fossil fuels and going to cleaner, greener energy, as they call it.
Countries with the opposite.
Right. But I mean, I think as a universal effort, like, if the world wants to be, less dependent on fossil fuels, it can't be a handful of countries that are really pushing that initiative.
Can't be 20% of the world.
Right. You still have a big part of, let's say, the industrial part of the world that is still putting in coal plants,
Yeah,
and still, and still burning, not very environmentally friendly products to power that. And then those products that we get are made from that. So it's kind of counterintuitive, where it's like, man, we need to spend all this money and change how we're doing things. However, we're going to still buy things from areas and parts of the world that are still using ways that we don't agree with, because it creates a cheaper product for our consumers.
Well, and I mean, I hate to see, like, and you saw some of this at some of the more kind of international forums, like they call it, the Conference of Parties, COP, where you had these kind of, lower, I don't know, I guess you call them third world countries. I don't know the politically correct way to talk about that. Yeah, sorry.
That's why your name's on the title.
That's why, yeah, seriously. Maybe I just got myself fired. But anyway.
Now just the gas hole.
Yeah, exactly.
See y'all. No more stew.
Yeah. It was fun while it lasted. 2 shows. No, but I mean, like, you've got, John Kerry telling these third world countries, sub-Saharan African countries, that, sorry guys, wind and solar, that you get to we skip natural gas for you, where we as the United States were able to benefit from natural gas. And so it's like, where's the justice in that? Like, not only are we getting cheap consumer goods because of these countries, but we're telling them, well, when we figure this all out, it's like, come on, man. Like, so it's got to be some equality globally, and it's not easy. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to agree that it's easy, but, like, it's just some hypocrisy that we've got to recognize.
I think that's consistent with just about everything. I mean, I don't mean to go off on a wacky tangent here, but no, I mean, during COVID, you sat around and heard everybody in the world needed to get this free shot. Right? We're going to give these free shots to everybody because it was about health. And I look back at that and I'm like, if it was really about health, insulin would be free, chemotherapy would be free. It's not about health.
AIDS medicine,
you're bringing shots to impoverished countries, and not worrying about malnutrition or starvation, but just this one small thing. And I think that it's again, it kind of boils back to that profitability thing. Like, it's a way to make money. And I think sometimes people want to pretend that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've said this to Chad in the past, because, with your history with your wife, Chad, and the the things that she's gone through from a health perspective, like, if if they cured cancer, or they had a cure of cancer, like it would cripple the economy. And that's it's not even possible at this point. And that's kind of the way I feel about, energy. If tomorrow they turned off the gas and they said no more gas and no more oil and no more, it would cripple the economy.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier, and I think one of the things that cracks me up is, and you kind of alluded to it, is we spent from, let's say, the mid 1800s benefiting from fossil fuels. We took the average age of people, and we've expanded it, healthcare and housing and heat and cooling, and we've benefited from all of those things. And now it's almost like we want to be like, oh, well, we benefited from them, but those folks that have it, you can't.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I sit and I think about this a lot, and I mentioned to you guys earlier is like, where's my note here that I made when we were talking?
I don't know. You read a lot of them, so I don't know if you're gonna be able to find it.
There's a lot of
No,
numbers.
I just we're asked to like not have things that we could possibly have for the sustainability of humanity. We keep talking about climate changes. We have to save the earth. But the reality is the earth's going to be fine. We sit and talk about that. We're trying to save humanity, but by not helping humanity, it seems kind of counterproductive. If there's ways to help people that live here now, to feed them and heat them and keep them healthy and live longer lives, don't we kind of owe it to society that that's the path we should be looking at? Or should we say, oh no, we have to save the earth from collapse potentially in 1,000 years?
But Joe, what about your children?
They live with Joe. They're gonna get through anything.
Well, I think it's an interesting point because, I mean, sure, I care about my kids maybe more than Joe. And so, I want them to have.
You definitely care about your kids more than I do. I promise you that.
But that's the thing is like, and I'm not going to ask my 3-year-old because I'd be scared what he'd say, but still, like, you got to ask the question of like, sure, like I want you to have a habitable earth, and I'm not going to argue with you. I don't think any of us reasonably can predict what's going to happen to the earth based on what emissions are happening. Right. You can model it. More power to the people that do that. God bless the people that pay them to do that, but whatever.
The ice caps have been melting my entire life. They've been melting your parents' entire life. They've been melting their parents' entire life. So no, modeling and predicting is not our strong suit when it comes to climate.
But I mean, the question, somebody has to ask the question, and we as society have to answer it, is what's better? And I think that's what you're getting at. Is it better to have the technologies and the advances we have, which are clearly attributable to the growth in fossil fuels, or is it better to not have that stuff? Is it better to cook your food on cow dung? And that's just not what policymakers are asking.
And that's what we've said for years. All the things we do are so life sustaining. I mean, just in the energy side, whether it be solar, whether it be wind, whether it be natural gas, anything like that. But I like Joe's point of, and I don't know if we've ever really talked about that, Joe, in 10 years of like, just that it's complete hypocrisy. And why are we trying to save the earth when we could easily just be saving many more humans by doing it a certain way?
So, I mean, I just asked the question, and again, please don't take this from a stance. I'm not taking a stance on it. But if you pump 800 million, $1 billion annually into green energy technologies, instead, what if you took that 800 billion or million billion, whatever it is, and pumped it into third world countries to give them.
Is that politically correct? Are you allowed to say third world countries? I don't know.
Everybody's getting canceled.
Episode 2. No, but that's the moral quandary for me. It's like you see all the we need to do more, and we need to put up these solar fields outside of my town that power 19 houses, and I'm like, really, how much did that cost? Why not try to work on something for people that are alive now and make their lives better? And I don't know. And I'm sorry, I know the climate change thing is real, but or at least perceived as real, but it's really easy to cherry pick data from time perspectives. I keep hearing from everybody, it's the hottest the earth has ever been. That is absolutely false. Anybody that's ever watched this, anybody that's watching this, it's absolutely false. Google it in 10 seconds. You'll find out that's absolutely false. They talk about, our CO2 levels are highest they've ever been. Patently false. I told you guys earlier, and actually I want to talk about this. I think it's important. We hear about CO2 and methane, right? Like those are the things we have to worry about. But then you start looking at like what our atmosphere is actually comprised of. Anybody want to guess what the primary, element or gas is in our atmosphere?
You told me earlier and I forgot.
Air. It's not air. You're definitely, you're like,
Air.
she's a failure. So anyways, it's nitrogen. 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. 21% is oxygen. 0.9% is argon. Carbon dioxide is 0.035%. Then neon, helium, and methane is like,
There's neon floating around here.
yeah, it's
part of air.
measured
Well,
in
that's part of the air.
methane's measured in parts per million. So I tell you all that to like 15 million years ago, our CO2 in our atmosphere was 800 parts per million. It's like 400 now, but it's oscillated for the last, I don't know how many years, 15 million years, between 2 and 400. So are we just at a point in history where it's on the high side? Like, and I think it's crazy to not consider, and I'm going to throw one back over to the green energy people, that this increase is maybe potentially because of, burning fossil fuels and becoming more industrial and all of the things and advantages that we've taken advantage of over the last 200 years. The reality is that from an Earth standpoint, those quantities, those measurables, the heat of is not even close to the all-time high of any of those things. So again, we sit and talk about saving the Earth. Are we saving the Earth? Or are we trying to save something for future generations? I mean, let's be intellectually honest here. If tomorrow humanity was burned out, right? The Earth's going to go. It's going to keep happening. It was going to rectify and clean itself up and go forward. Mother Earth kind of always wins. So I don't know. That's my point. There was a time when alligators lived in the Arctic. So, I mean, they made it work.
Ooh, they were scary then, probably, huh?
So
chewing ice, like.
But I don't know. It bothers me. It bothers me.
Did you have that note written down, the alligator one in the ice?
No, I just remembered that.
You made that one up.
I need a source though. I don't know.
You made it up. We're gonna need a fact check.
You know what? Finding it. No, but I mean, you guys kind of understand my point, right? Like,
I do.
It's again. I think we should do better always. I think you should always be trying to do better. But if it's inhibiting and preventing other people from doing better, it doesn't really mesh for me.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is, I mean, it's $1 trillion. I mean, they're spending trillions of dollars on the kind of whatever renewable technologies. Where's the money being spent on kind of mitigation technologies, if you want to call it that? I mean, like, how many seawall, if the sea levels are rising, how many seawalls can you build for that much money? How many carbon capture things? I mean, that's the thing, is like you're telling people to change their lifestyle. How many trees
can you plant?
Right.
One of my interesting things about the seawall types of stuff is nobody would insure a house on a seawall if they thought that, or near the ocean, if they thought it was actually going to rise like that much.
Oh,
there would be no insurance. There wouldn't be trillionaires buying houses on the ocean.
That's that's the old elite, like, do this,
yeah.
Listen to what I say, not don't follow what I do. It's really hard for me to swallow when these guys are going to these climate, meetings and taking their private jets,
their G50s or whatever they are,
and they're eating like gazillion-dollar steaks and beef. And like, you know what? You should eat plant beef. And like, it's like, wait a minute, I don't know, like, but
eat bugs.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean,
it's not great.
I don't know. I don't want to get too long-winded on it. I just think that you guys understand where I'm coming from. And if we could save, in my opinion, like we shut the world down and we tried to inject everybody with a shot to save lives. We have the ability to save so many lives now with the technologies that we currently have that we refuse to use because we're chasing some, maybe impossible goal. It's you still see the things on TV, like sponsor a kid for a cup of coffee a day to make sure he eats.
And you're like, really? Yeah.
It's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. And we live in America, so we don't really even the worst part of America is 10 times better than, some of those. I'm not saying anything.
Seventh world country.
Yeah, some of those other countries. And I just think that there's a lot more we can do for the people that are currently residing on the planet now. And it bums me out that we're not necessarily doing that at all times. So
I mean, yeah, I mean, my whole thing is like nobody's asking them, right? I mean, who are we to say, here's the solution that we think is best for you? It's like, no,
I think
ask the
we do
people
that a
what they
lot as a
want.
country.
They just get told what to do.
We do that as a lot
Yeah.
as a country, internally and externally. We tell a lot of other countries what they're going to do too,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
I mean,
And-
I live in New York, as you guys all know, and it's one of those goofy states that wants to shut down gas over here and turn it off over there and change policies and things like that. Kind of very similar to California. But what people don't like think about is California in every year uses more and more natural gas. It's, they're up what, 5.31% from
They
20
have to be. They can't keep their
2023 to
electric grid
right.
on without it.
But
and they're
that's the
shutting down
part
the nuclear ones.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But that's the part that kills me. And what you don't see is that they're not doing it in their state, but they're just importing gas from other places and then using this like, well, we're not, doing as much with gas. It's like, yes, you are. You're
You're
doing
actually
more.
doing more.
You're trying to like, smoke and mirrors to people that fall for this stuff. And I again, I don't want to get into the political part of it too much, but I just think we could do better on a
We
lot
can
of
always do
different
better,
fronts.
man.
You
That's
know,
for sure.
it's like recycling back in the day. I always tell this. Everybody's like, I got to recycle. You know what happens with recycling? Recycling is like kind of like for all you people that don't know. I'm gonna leave it up there. Recycling doesn't like they started recycling off years ago with a thought that it would be good for the environment. The reality is that it's not financially feasible to be able to do it to the degree, but they still make you put it out in front of your yard and they still separate it and put it and package it and they don't recycle it. The vast majority of it goes to incinerators or landfills. People don't know that. They think they're doing good by separating their glass and their plastic and their paper. It's again, it's smoke and mirrors. And I think I'm just tired of being in a country or even a world that tries to explain to you to do something, you need to do your part when it's not necessarily doing
So
your
he's going to
part.
make a quick cameo to say bye before she leaves for the
Oh,
cross.
say hi to Zoe.
If she ever, she's supposed to come in. She stopped though. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just failed.
Anyways, anything else, Stu? What do you got? What else you got? I could talk forever about this. And
Recording a podcast. Come here.
Come on, Zoe. Okay, either in or out. Let's go. All right.
Love you. Be safe. Okay. All right.
That's real life right there.
Yep.
That is
there it
right. So I guess, I mean, Joe, Chad, just curious, like, so what do we do? Like, what do we need to tell
We
people
thought that's
that?
what you were going to tell us. That's why
What do
you're
I?
the guy in
Here's
charge.
the Stu.
I got canceled. No.
It happened early.
No, I just I don't honestly, Stuart, I think that's what frustrates me the most. As an individual person, I don't think there's much I can do, no matter how hard I try. You can work tirelessly to try to make changes, and I don't care what side of the aisle you lay on. You still end up in basically getting nothing accomplished. The only way it changes is if we start getting people in government and leadership that actually kind of feel the same way and start voting for people that actually carry that value system. Because as individuals, we're so divided. It's hard to get anything accomplished. It's sad to say that, but there's so many, 380 million people in the United States. I mean, how do you get 380 million people on the same page for anything?
Right.
I mean, I can't even get my kids on the same page for dinner, let alone, so I don't know what the answer is. I think just doing things like this and trying to educate people and giving people a different perspective, to elicit thought. So they're not just kind of fed what they're fed on news and media and things like that. And just, I tell my kids all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too, is just question everything. Like just question, like look into it, research it, think about it, just my girls are getting old. My oldest is getting to the point where she's, kind of getting into that, uh, that liberal mentality, let's just say. And there's a lot of things that she thinks and that she hears that she gets from school or other avenues that I'm just like, I don't want to argue with you about this, but I just want you to look a little deeper. I don't want you to just take what everybody says as fact. And I want you to just think about it a little bit more. I think that's all we can do is try to raise the next generation to be a little bit more conscientious. I mean, back in when my grandfather was around, like the news was the news. Like that was the
There was no
ultimate
opinion.
Right.
It was the truth. What you saw was the truth. And I think it's obviously been watered down further and further, but there's still, I think, that perspective from even kids that watch the news and they go, it's the news. It's got to be accurate, right? And so I think that would be my message. Question everything. Kuba, what do you got?
I think so too. I mean, that's a real the hardest part in today's day and age to me about the question everything is everybody has a cell phone and everybody's algorithm, whatever they do on their cell phone is what you see. So it's very, very hard to see the other side of the opinion, even if you want to. I mean, that's very strange. Like if I go on, if I go on Twitter or X or whatever it is,
And you search up
95% of what I want to see is what I like and look at. I don't really get to see the other perspective very much unless I go try and find it and look for it. So that can
But
be
again,
really
that
tough
dials
too.
back in. That's just like new age news media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like you're only following news that interests you, which is really strange and hard to do. And kids, unlike us, I mean, we grew up, luckily, I think, that before cell phones and things like that, where you didn't have that at the access of your fingers. You went to your encyclopedia. You literally, you walked over to your Encyclopedia Britannica, hope your parents bought it for you. And that was the answer. And then the hardest part was to change all the stuff that you had to write on your test.
The addendums.
Yeah. And now you have a program.
Stuart might even be a little too young for those.
You can go ask you can go type a question in the computer and it'll write you a 600-word essay on it. I mean,
where was that when I was in school?
Seriously, it's tough. It's just tough, and it's not going to get any better. I don't think it's going to get any better. It's just built to divide, and that's kind of how it is. Sadly,
I think Stuart, maybe you have a different perspective just because of what you do and where you sit.
But no, I mean, I think for me, I 100% agree with the question, everything. But one thing I hope through this show and for folks that listen is that we can provide the safe space. As I got canceled earlier, I'll use that word. The safe space.
Anytime.
I'm now in the good graces of a certain
You're in the safe space
segment. Yeah. But I mean, it can be both and. Like I rode my bike to work today. I got solar panels on my house, but I work for the natural gas industry. Like,
it drives
what's wrong with that?
On the weekend, so.
But I mean, that's the thing is like
wood burning fireplaces.
Yeah, well, no, it's natural gas. But
that boils down to choice.
Yeah, but who am I stupid to save money because I generate excess power in the summertime, and then in the wintertime I use natural gas because I believe it heats my home more efficiently. Like, why can we not have that in our society that you can have both? Like, you don't have to be on one side or the other.
Because you have to pick a direction.
Well, and see, that's where our society's got it wrong.
You have to support something,
right?
And I think that's where it goes wrong. I'm obviously sit more on the conservative side of the fence, but I'm certainly not voting solely on party line. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right.
I think more people need to start considering that. What's happened in the last 12 years in the political arena has it's just a different atmosphere.
People don't even vote for what helps them anymore. They don't even vote for their
what's
best
the letter
interests,
besides my name. Yeah.
I said this to Chad the other day. I was like, why don't you vote for what's best for what's gonna be best for you and your family, not who you like more or who you hate more. Like, why vote that way? Because at the end of the day, you're going to want what's best for you, and that's how you should be voting. But we've gotten, I think, so far away from that. I mean, the polarization of parties is just, that truthfully, in essence, scares me. I feel like nothing can get done positively because we're so wrapped up in hating each other.
I always said we need a third, the common sense party. Like the one that uses
just
some common sense to figure some stuff.
Maybe it's Stu be the next president.
I don't want that job.
Party leader, Stu Salters.
No.
This will come back to haunt you.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
That's gonna be a skeleton in your closet, buddy. They're like, you did what? No, wait a minute.
You did that podcast where the guy said climate change isn't real? No.
Yeah, right. Not saying it's not real. I'm just
kidding. Definitely real. It's just I don't think it's real within the next million years.
Is it real? I mean, climate does change, but are we actually impacting it? Like, and I know this sounds stupid, and I'm going to kind of leave it at this, but if 15 volcanoes blow off, like,
it doesn't matter what we do.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point. Like, I think we're kind of naive in thinking that we can change anything sometimes. I don't think we're leading the earth around by its ear. It's the other way around.
Right. So wasn't it that, like, you mentioned the volcanoes? maybe one of our savvy listeners will figure this out, but I feel like I read something where one of the volcanoes erupted and it almost like stopped. It was able to like put a layer that prevented,
Yeah, because the Mother Earth
CO2 and
heals itself.
methane. Right, exactly. So I mean, like we're trying to predict what's unpredictable.
Yeah, and I think that's what it boils down to. Jokingly, when I said about the ice caps have been melting, I mean,
I think you were joking about that alligator thing too.
no, I'm telling you, it's true.
I tried
I
looking
mean,
it up.
It was like 50 gazillion years ago, but no, I think that we just need to be open and honest and be able to hear other opinions and be able to make the best choices for the folks that live on this planet now, or in the next 50 years. I mean, as a kid, I'm 46 years old. As a kid, I heard the New York City is going to be underwater, California is going to disappear, the ice caps are melting, and the CO2, it's going to these animals aren't going to be able to live anymore because the earth's going to be too hot, and there's going to be and none of that has come to fruition. But you still hear that prognostication from people today, and it's like, I don't want to say like I didn't fall for it the first time kind of thing, but it's like it's not believable.
Do you remember when they wanted to stop using aerosol hairspray because it was bad for the ozone layer?
You can't even
like
get
this little can right here.
I'm sorry, but listen, if you're listening, if this makes it to the desk of the person that invented the paper straw, that was an epic foul. It's awful. Awful invention. I'm sorry. Don't worry though. In 10 years, they'll tell you we're killing too many trees and we got to go back to plastic straws.
They already say that.
Right.
You used to be able to pick paper plastic. Now it's only plastic.
No. Yeah, no plastic. Or when I was a kid, we were you're killing trees. Got to stop with the paper. Yeah. The messaging is bizarre, I think, and I think one of the things, and I talked about it moons ago, is you hear people like, I think people that are in leaders or in political positions or even celebrities, they have they need to do better. They need to do better with their messaging to the millions of people that hear their messaging.
Yeah, you're right.
Like I'll never forget Bernie Sanders, like 3 years ago or whatever, tweeted out, "This is the hottest August it's been ever in Earth," and I was like, "That's not true." But you have 40 million followers that now read that, and potentially you need to do better, and you need to be really factual in your correspondence with people, because you are a leader and you're looked up to in that regard. And I think that is something that needs to be, you asked what needs to be changed. I think that's what needs to change, is that people need to be a little bit more conscientious of spitting out information without having the facts to a massive amount of people. So I don't know.
No, you're so angry.
We can beat this horse to death. I do want to say that we are eventually going to get some guests. I think we have one coming up that's actually sits on the kind of more solar and
used to be on the natural gas side
and is now on the solar side of the business. So it's really going to be cool to speak with him. He's preliminarily agreed. So we'll try not to beat him up too bad, but no, I think I would like some alternate opinions. I'd like to get some people from the other side. So I'm hoping the next little podcast we do, or webcast, whatever you call this, has some of that element into it as well, because I want to ask those questions from that side.
And I want to listen. That's a big part too.
That's what I
need to do. A lot of people, when you don't, a lot of people that sit on the other side don't want to talk to somebody else because they don't feel like they're listened to. Because they think it just wants to be an argument. I'm open to all of it because it's very, I mean, I think it's all important. You can't do one without the other.
And this is a safe space.
It's a safe space.
I'm going to cut that out and make that like just
one of the things you should put that on the sides.
Stew in the gas holes in a safe space.
Yeah,
good.
Just make a little box, Chad, and write space there. No, I think one of the things though that gets me, and we can leave it after this, it'll be done after this, is I hear a lot of stuff. I get a lot of information from people that are super on the fossil fuel plus positive side, right? But I look into it, and a lot of times I'm like, this is BS. Like now you're parroting bad information. What's that?
You almost did it. I would have been able to have to figure out how to bleep you
on the BS part.
Yeah,
I'm savvy. This is like episode 150. I've gotten this under control. I will screw up at some point, but not today. But Sue, you got any upcoming things with what you got going on down there? Anything that you guys are working on the next couple of weeks or months?
This is actually, we're a little bit in the dog days of summer here, so it's kind of nice. I mean, there'll be craziness happening across the street on Capitol Hill, I'm sure, but from a event and travel and all that kind of stuff, we got a little bit of time before our next event, and then got some family vacation, so that's always fun. But yeah, no, I mean, this is always good to chat with you guys. Always good to have the conversation. Appreciate y'all inviting me
Absolutely.
into this
Appreciate you.
safe space.
This is your show, man. We just
That's true. That is true. So I
we're
just gotta
like, this
get
is like
my
Sesame
Michael
Street. We're
Buffer.
like the low characters.
I was gonna say Grimace, but he's not a Sesame character. Can't win.
They probably
He's
talked about
McDonald's.
recycling on Sesame Street, I imagine.
I'm sure
Of
that
course
that's
they-
definitely been brought up. Yeah. But no, as always, guys, thank you. I know this show's kind of evolving. I think when we start getting some guests on here and we can start asking some more pointed questions and having some more dialogue. But I do appreciate the fact that we can at least just sit down and talk a little bit factual. You know, I really implore both of you the next time, like, just spend like 20 minutes or so looking at some stuff. And like, it's cool to kind of talk about, because what might be second nature to you and what might be something that you've heard a gazillion times might not be for somebody else. And I think we have to be aware of that even a little bit of facts and a little bit of truth is probably good for everybody to hear again. So
Yep.
with that being said, Stu, you got some like fancy like sign off, like Stu, that's all, like anything like that?
Oh, I like Stu.
Come on, Stu. Let's do it. I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Let's see, what can I do? No,
That's
I
what
got
you're
nothing.
under, right?
Come on, Stu. There's got to be a little bit in there.
I was trying to think of some like good tagline, like
There you go.
what's the guy like Jim Carrey in Bruce Almighty? What does he say when he closes out his news
Oh, that's a
show?
good one. You know what? Save it for next episode.
Yeah, I'll look
You
it
can
up.
Google that one. That'll be your new thing.
All right.
All
Until
right,
then,
well, thanks again. It's always good seeing you.
Thank you guys.
see ya.
To infinity and beyond again.